Welcome back to another episode of my East Coast Fitness Podcast, and I'm your host, Mark Lewis. This is episode 32 of the podcast, and I do have another special guest joining me today. And as I do with every episode of the podcast, I basically just let them introduce yourself. So if you could introduce yourself to the viewers, and that would be awesome.
Hey guys, I'm Asher. I'm actually living in the United States right now. I live in Tennessee. I am a junior in college. I'm 21 years old. I'm about 165 to 167 pounds right now. Ultimately, I'm a powerlifter, but bodybuilding was my passion for about 3 years, so I still do that on the side.
Awesome. So kind of how I kind of like to ask everybody at the start is about getting into weightlifting. I find a lot of people are doing it necessarily for like sports, and then they realize that maybe they aren't going to make it where they think they are with sports or whatever, and then ends up taking the weightlifting a little bit more seriously. So I guess for you, where did you decide, like when did you first decide that like you were going to do powerlifting or you were going to do bodybuilding, that you were going to start taking it more seriously with weightlifting?
Yeah, so it's actually funny that you said that, because for me, I started sophomore year of high school. I was playing basketball and lacrosse for 9-10 years, ever since I was little. And then sophomore year came around, I sprained my ankle really, really badly. And so I ended up quitting basketball and quitting lacrosse, and I ended up getting involved in drugs and alcohol, which is terrible, and I ended up getting arrested, and that was kind of like a turning point for my life, because I got put in another school and shit, and so I was like, well, this sucks, I can either be like, this sucks, or I can either make a name out of myself and change a lot about myself. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up changing, and I started bodybuilding at first. I bodybuilded all through about freshman year of college, so like 3 years. I never did any shows. I really just did it because I just like to do it. I didn't really do it for a competition or anything. I just love to go in there and, lift weights, stuff like that. But come like mid freshman year of college, I kind of just wanted to see my numbers grow, not like pound wise, but as in like my squat to grow, my deadlift to grow. And that's kind of why I got into it. And there was this guy I met at the gym one day. He was benching like 295 for like a set of 6 or something like that, like a 3x6 or something.
Yeah.
I asked him, I was like, how do you get your bench up? And he was like, well, dude, you just got to bench more. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And we ended up talking for a while. And he was kind of like my first coach, but like he wasn't really my coach. He kind of just like introduced me to powerlifting.
Yeah.
And he showed me a lot of different programs, what to run, stuff like that. And he definitely helped me grow my squat and bench and deadlift, but he didn't really push me to the limits where I wanted to be pushed at. But he's the one who introduced me to powerlifting ultimately.
Awesome. So I just want to circle back to a couple things. So when you kind of got arrested and you were at like rock bottom, because I feel like a lot of people can definitely relate to this, especially at a young age. How did you kind of adjust your mindset? Because I know that would have been probably fairly difficult to kind of like focus your actions on like taking it away from something that might not be as productive as doing drugs and drinking, to kind of saying, you know what, I want to make a change. Like where did that motivation do you think came from to do that?
Yeah. Honestly, man, so the school I went to, the other school, once I got arrested and shit, it was inside of the high school that I went to. It was like a classroom, and I would walk, like in the lunchroom or like through the hallways and stuff to like go to the office, get papers from my teacher or whatever, because it was just a classroom. And if she wanted me to do something, like I was allowed to leave and come back, but I was like escorted.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like going through there, like people knew like I was like the guy that got arrested and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm not gonna allow these people to think I'm a terrible person because I just screwed up. So like they didn't really see me for 6 or 7 months, so I just kind of wanted to grow my body and show them that I wasn't really like a shitty person, I guess. I don't know. And
So you basically wanted to like prove that like what you did wasn't really representative of what you
yeah,
were.
exactly.
You,
And
yeah,
the thing about that is it really, I guess part of it was the students a little bit, but also going back in because I was enrolled next semester, like it was only for I think 5 or 6 months or something.
yeah,
But also, I didn't want the teachers I was going to have next semester to think I was a terrible person.
yeah,
So if I showed them that, you know, I could grow myself, that like self-image, stuff like that, like they're going to think, oh, okay, he really did just screw up, you know, if he's working on himself and
yeah,
stuff like that. So I guess that kind of gave me motivation at first. um, and then I don't know, man, like once I saw like, you know, because you see the most results in like 2 months. And so after like, you know, 2 months, I just kind of fell in love with it. And also like, I didn't have anything to do. Like my mom and dad were both really strict on me. They were like, you're not going anywhere. Like you fucked up bad and stuff like that. So like I was basically grounded for that whole semester. All they would let me do is go outside, go to the gym and stuff like that. So that's all I did.
yeah. No, that's awesome that you did that for sure. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people definitely like would struggle with like that mindset because I know when I was younger, like when I was in my like I'm 30 right now, but when I was 18 or 19, I was also involved with that kind of stuff, and like I didn't get to the point where it necessarily like really started to negatively affect my life, but I could see it like starting to take like
Oh
control
yeah.
of my life, and I think that like people start to like notice, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
when it starts to become like it's like oh yeah, you're drinking on the weekends, and it's like you're
Yeah.
drinking through the weekdays, and then like now the only thing that you're worried about is like when you're gonna, you know what I mean. So eventually it starts to take over your life, and I was like I
Exactly. Hmm.
was I allowed it for me to do it for a while, but eventually I became like self-aware, and then I
Yeah.
started reflect back on like what people said, and I was like that's probably true, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. I'm probably doing this too much. I'm probably so for me that's exactly kind of how I got into fitness as well, was more of just wanting to change my life. Obviously being overweight, like I wasn't really necessarily overweight, I was like skinny,
Hmm.
um but I mean like it just, yeah, I just wanted to make a change for myself, and it kind of stemmed from the same problem as you, is just getting involved with things I didn't, it really wasn't me, you know what I mean, to get involved with those things. So I
Hmm.
knew that like if I devoted my attention and my interest to something else, I knew I could achieve a lot better. Like all the time that I would spend like getting high or like drinking or whatever, like I could easily devote that to fitness. And like
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, like, imagine the results I could get if I spent the time doing, you know what I mean, that, but versus this. So
Exactly. That's what I thought too. Yeah, that's
so
what I
I
was
was like
thinking in my
a
head.
lot more potential than just, you know what I mean, like wondering what time the liquor store closes.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom was the same. Yeah, my mom would say that all the time. She was like, "You're doing this too much, blah blah blah," and I was like, "It's whatever. Like, I'm just trying to live." And then it eventually got to the point where I was doing it too much because, first of all, it was illegal, and you know, it catches. If you're doing something wrong, or if you're doing something illegal and you're getting away with it, if you keep on doing it, you're eventually going to get caught. That's just the way the universe works. You're not going to get away with it your whole life. It's eventually
No,
going to catch up to you. And
absolutely
it
not.
eventually
Like,
caught up to me.
and it's funny because everybody thinks they're being smart about it, right? They're like, oh, well, I'll never get caught. I'll never do this. It's like, there's just that one time where, like, you know what I mean? You do something that you're not supposed, like, it just kind of escalates. And, like, eventually you almost get like a rush because you're doing it more and you're not getting caught. And then, like, you end up, like, making it work. Like, every day you end up doing more. And then eventually it just leads, like you said, it just, eventually you are going to get, you know what I mean? Something's
Yeah.
going to happen. It's going to be impacting somebody else's life or your own. So I just want to get back onto the powerlifting side of things. So you mentioned you met somebody in the gym who was trying to help you with your lifts, and that you bodybuild. So you did a little bit of bodybuilding before you noticed that you wanted to get into powerlifting. So I guess what was like the major, like why did I? You mentioned that you wanted for the weight to kind of like improve your lifts, but I guess like was that kind of what was the main reason to why you made the switch from bodybuilding to powerlifting?
If I'm being completely honest, I really just got bored. Like I
Yeah,
just kind of got bored of bodybuilding. Bodybuilding for 3 or 4 years. I went through so many different programs. I went through cutting, bulking, cutting, bulking. Like it was kind of just like a seasonal thing. And then I eventually got to the point where I stopped cutting and bulking. I kind of just went to go bodybuild because I like to do it. But after, and like I wasn't really tracking my macros. That was going on for like 6 months, and I was just like, what am I doing? Because like I kind of just looked, I was getting like fat almost, and I was like, I was getting fat because I was bored. Like I would put the gym into my rotation just because it's always been in my life, or I've just been used to it, but I really wasn't pushing myself. And I was like, well, it's probably because I'm just bored of it, and I was. So I guess that's ultimately why I started powerlifting. I just wanted to change, and after strictly powerlifting for a little bit, I brought bodybuilding back into my split. And now I just like doing both because I get the best of both worlds now, so it's fun.
Absolutely. I think that's like you definitely hit on a good point there with like getting bored of it, because I feel like if you're bodybuilding, I wouldn't say necessarily like you have to do a show, but like as if you are taking something, like if you're just bodybuilding and you want to improve your physique and you want to like get down to the weight and like maintain like a pretty good physique, but if you're constantly like bulking and cutting and bulking and cutting, it's like you almost have to do a show because it's like goal setting. Like I was at that point with myself as well, where I was like, okay, I was bodybuilding, and then I was like, well, what's next? Like I lost the weight, I better, and it's like I can't really like go any further without like maintaining it. You know what I mean? So I was like, let's do a show. So that's when I decided to do a show. So it's like I think that like in order for somebody to actually like stick with bodybuilding, I think you need to continue to like reevaluate your goals.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that I think a lot of people like get caught in the cycle of like they lose the weight. Like this, I'm just summing it up, like the general person, let's say, like they lose weight, they decide that they want to do bodybuilding, they do a show, they don't do as good as they want to do, and then they're like, okay, I got to take 2 years off to like bulk and do better, and then they end up they never end up going to do a show. They end up bulking, and then they get overweight again, and then they're lost. So it's like a cycle of just like, and I think that like it's very hard to like set a 2-year goal, like especially if you're not where you want to be. So it's like for me personally, when I did my show, I did an untested show, and I was a natural. So I did it because I just wanted to get my feet wet. So everybody on the stage was obviously much further along than I was, and it was just definitely hard to compete with them. But like looking back now, I wanted to do it to see whether or not I liked it. So then I was like, well, I'm gonna do like a 2-year off season and just like better myself and then do a natural show. So I think kind of what I'm trying to say is like when you're doing it, I think it's very important to like establish a goal and like really stick with it. And in your situation, it was more of like, well, maybe I don't want to do a show. I need to like figure out a direction that I want to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So then that direction just happened to be powerlifting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I never really wanted to step on stage. It was more of just a thing I love to do, but I'm a very competitive person, but me stepping on stage is not really something I wanted to do. So, but me,
like, why didn't you want to? I'm just curious. Like, what was it about the stage? Was it the money, the financial thing, or just like the idea of like the fitness industry, or just I guess like what was it about the stage that kind of like you didn't want to do?
That's the thing. I really don't have an answer for that. I just didn't like. I don't know. It just didn't really like. There's nothing wrong about it. Like I watch shows all the time. It's just not something I really wanted to do. In the back of my mind, it feels like because I know prep for that is very, very, very hard.
Absolutely.
And or like me being in high school at the time, or like freshman year of college, like those are like some of the busiest times of my life that I've had so far. So me having to prep for that on top of that kind of just strayed me away because, freshman year of college, like you're living by yourself. I mean, you want to experience shit. So it's just not something that was on my plate. I mean, that's pretty much, I was just too lazy to do it ultimately.
Yeah, no, but you are giving up a lot, right? Like you got to think about doing a show prep. It's like I know when I did mine, I didn't really realize how much I was actually giving up. Like I knew like my coach, I actually worked with the coach when I was doing it, obviously, because it was my first show, so I was new to it. And I feel like you should work with a coach no matter what, like if you're competing. people that are involved with sports, like everyone who's going to take sports seriously, like hockey players and basketball players, like they all have like coaches, and
Oh yeah.
they go to like off-season camps and they like try to improve like their game like in the off-season. But like for me, it was like, all right, like he warned me and he was telling me like you're gonna have to devote, like, I mean, obviously like if you want to, but like in order to like give it your all and look your best, you're really gonna have to grind. You're really gonna have to like make some sacrifices. And I was like, yeah, sure, like I'm ready to make those sacrifices. I lost weight, you know what I mean? Like I was able to commit to like changing my life and like losing weight and like building muscle and like looking better. So I was like, why can't I commit to a show? But then I remember like about like 3 weeks or probably about like halfway through. So my prep was about like 3 or 4 months. It should have been longer, but last minute decision. So I basically started prep in January, and I did a show in April. So I lost like a significant amount of muscle. It should have been like a 7 month, like a 6 month prep. Moral of the story is that like during the prep, I was like, I don't even think I'm ready for this. Like it was really, really difficult. And like going back to the mention about giving up things, like when you're young and you're in university and you want to like enjoy your life, it's like being able to have to like diet that hard, being able to like eat calories and like not feeling like, I remember like I couldn't even go to work some days because I just couldn't friggin' walk. Like it was just the energy level. Like all I wanted to do all day was like sleep. And like the only thing that like really got me to the gym was like pounding pre-workout. So it was definitely like a struggle. So I can totally understand what you mean by like not willing to commit to bodybuilding because of all like, you know what I mean? How much you have going on in your life and how much you want to be able to like do fitness while also still enjoying what you're doing. So
yeah. Having said that, I kind of have reevaluated like stepping on stage. I do want to step on stage in the future, but when I started off, I didn't want to. If I do end up stepping on stage, it would definitely be when I'm out of college living by myself or with a girlfriend or whatever happens in the future, whatever happens. But it would definitely be at a point in my life where I'm settled and I know I can make all the decisions. Like I don't have any other distractions. Like all I have is that and like a job or something like that. That's it.
yeah.
Like I don't have to worry about, roommates or people coming over, this and that. Like that's all I can worry about is myself and prep and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's good because like it's very like it can be easy to get like distracted when you're doing it, right? So for me at the time I was basically living by myself as well, and it was definitely difficult to like, it was hard to not do anything else and to not go out and to not, you know what I mean? If going out for a meal, like I'm sitting there like eating my meal prep. I still found ways to enjoy it where like I remember bringing like green beans and fish out to like a restaurant and like going out to eat with people, and then like the waiter would leave and they would take everybody's order. I'd get water and then everybody would get their meal and then I would pull up my meal prep container and I just felt like an absolute like I would say I was like, what am I even doing? Like but I wanted to like enjoy it because like I think if you're in a place where you're alone and you're always by yourself, it's like sometimes the only thing to do is like temptations with food, right? So I found that like just trying to get my mind off food, especially when you're dieting on such like lower calories, and just like people are like, oh, you can't do nothing on prep. It's like try to go out, try to spend time with like friends, like still do things, but try to like make it fit within your diet, right? Like video games, like do anything to take your mind off food, because I'm telling you, man, like you can definitely develop an eating disorder. Extremely easy to be like after prep just completely binge and then not be able to control yourself and then never really have the same relationship for food. So it definitely impacted me for sure. Like I'm still working on that because I mean there's certain things where it's like if I binge or something or I have something I go to eat, it can like easily spiral into like a week of just eating shitty and then like feeling shitty and then being like, all right, Monday, all right, no, Tuesday, all right, this week's screwed. You know what I mean? Just like, all right, reset. And then the workouts are shit because like you feel shit. Because like you're eating like crap. So you're like, oh, well, like, I don't know, I'll start like a new training. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's very easy to kind of get lost in that mindset of just bad relationship for food. And then it just impacting everything. So I guess with your current fitness goals right now, where are you at right now? Are you looking to like, are you going to do another, or you're looking to kind of plan for another powerlifting meet, or where are you at with your training?
Yeah. So right now, I'm trying to prep for collegiate nationals. I'm gonna talk to my coach about what meets he thinks I should do before that, because you have to qualify for collegiate nationals. Um, but like it's not really that serious. Like I know I can qualify in my weight class right now if I wanted to. But I still want to go to a decent meet to where I can really experience the environment and stuff like that, because my last one obviously I couldn't go to.
Hmm.
Um, so that's and I think collegiate nationals is usually around like April,
Yeah.
every single year. So I would do next April, obviously. I would compete in the fall, so probably around like August or September or something like that. And then hopefully I would qualify for collegiate nationals. Then I would start prepping for that in the spring. Um, and that's kind of my goals. And then like long term, uh, if collegiate goes well, and I think I'm at the tip of my weight class and stuff, I hope to qualify for Raw Nationals in the future. But as of right now, collegiate nationals is kind of like the short term goal.
Awesome. So if you had to say like what would be your best lift, which lift do you think it would be?
Oh, I don't know, man. Like my squat has come a very, very, very long way in a year. Like the coach that I told you about, the first coach I had, he kind of dipped my feet in the water with squat. Um,
Yeah.
but but Jason, I'm an athlete of the strength, guys. He's a really, really good guy. He's won 3 world championships as a coach. He coaches Taylor Atwood. He's like a 6-time national champion. He's a great guy. But anyways, Jason was like, yeah, man, like your squat, I know you can blow this shit up, and he's really been pushing me on squat to the limits. So I would say that's probably my best lift right now, because I've been seeing the most growth in it. He's also really helped my bench. Like we discussed earlier, I had a lot of weight fear with bench.
Yeah.
Um, but he's really helped me overcome that a little bit, since I've been benching like 3 or 4 times a week instead of when I was bodybuilding only like once a week. So I've seen a lot of growth in that too. Bench is just hard to grow. Um, like bench goes like this, as in like squat and deadlift go more like that when you're training.
Yeah.
But I would say overall squat's probably the best. Um, I'm hoping in the next like 2 months he'll start incorporating 400 plus onto my squat for like doubles or triples, because I know I can get them, and I've never experienced 400 plus on squat before, and I've been telling him I'm ready to blow this shit up, bro, and he's like, yeah, give it time. He
All
just
right.
he doesn't want to rush it, so.
So do
And
you feel like the biggest thing that like the difference between like what kind of increased those numbers was just, I guess, like was it increasing the overall, obviously, like form and technique and improving all that, but like did you find that like increasing the frequency like really helped with, is that something that you were focusing on, was like, okay, before maybe I was squatting once a week and then like 2 times a week, and then did you find that like the, I guess, like the more the better, or like where did you
oh yeah.
find for you had to draw the line?
Yeah, no, I have a TikTok, so I go on TikTok, and I see a bunch of fitness guys, and it's like, you want to increase your squat, like do this exercise, and it'll be like, I don't know, a Bulgarian split squat or like leg press or something, whatever. And like, yeah, that helps your squat, obviously.
Yeah.
It's all leg muscles, like obviously it's gonna help it. But if you want to see your squat improve, you just have to squat more. Like that's all it is. I squat 3 times a week now, and I've seen my squat's probably gone up like 85 pounds or something in like 7.5 months. Not even kidding, because I squat more. And that's the same thing with bench and deadlift. That's really taxing on your body. So like you probably shouldn't do more than twice a week. But if you want to see your lifts increase, you just have to increase frequency and how much you do it per week. But having said that, if you're not used to it, like you kind of have to ease into it. But once you're doing it, I mean, you get really used to it, but by Sunday, you're going to feel like shit.
Yeah, like right now, I'm currently probably like I'm following the bodybuilding split, obviously, because that's kind of where my goals are.
Yeah.
Like I'm squatting like once a week, really. Like I do other exercises, like to kind of like I do Bulgarian split
Yeah.
squats, I'll do press, but like a lot of my work is like more mind muscle connection.
Oh yeah.
Like just going through like a different phase of my training where it's like not necessarily progressive overload with the amount of weight and trying to like max out squats. It's more about just like trying to improve that like mind muscle connection, trying to get the volume up, just trying to really feel the muscles work. And I find that has been improved. But obviously, like I will cycle back to incorporating more squats. But I do find that like when I do squats, I'm like for some reason they absolutely destroy me. Like
Yeah.
if I was doing a push pull legs, for example, and I would do like legs, like I would do legs twice a week, but I could only squat once a week. Like my legs were completely, it was just a really like bad muscle group for me. Like I find my legs take the longest to recover out of all muscle. So for you, I guess, like, do you find that there's one muscle group that like for you that's like that always takes longer to recover or just never really gets to where you want to be, or like kind of I guess like holding you back, like a limiting muscle group that does that?
So obviously our splits are different right now. So like I do squat bench deadlift on Monday and squat bench deadlift on Friday. I will say, or Friday's also usually my heavier days, but lower rep. But I feel like complete ass by Friday, every single Friday. And I kind of have to drag myself. Like, I'm always excited to be there, but like, I know it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
I can feel my body being fatigued. It's not really a muscle group in particular that feels bad for me. It's kind of just like I feel like I'm breaking almost.
Yeah.
And like Friday is the last day where it's like, okay, after this day, I'm broken. And every single Friday, that's what happens. Like this last Friday, 2 days ago, like I have never felt that way ever in my life. This was the heaviest I've gone in a while. And like walking out of the gym, like I was like, damn, like I feel like shit. But
well, yeah, that's good though.
Yeah, but then on Saturday and Sunday I recover, and then I'm ready for the next week.
So I guess like what your training split, like you mentioned that you're doing it on Monday and you're doing it on Friday. I guess like in between the week, like what are you trying to do? Like, are you doing more like higher volume? So it's like squats, like set of 10, or are you doing like entry exercises, or like what kind of like, I guess your split, like what kind of other exercises do you normally do other than just like your fundamental lifts?
Yeah, so Monday is usually my very, very high volume day. I think last week I had a 3x8 or 3x9 of all the 3 lifts. And then Mondays I usually just do squat, bench, deadlift. I may walk on the treadmill for like maybe 5 minutes just to cool down and just, really reset my mind, get my head ready for the day. Tuesday, it kind of depends how I'm feeling. This Tuesday, I hit arms. Last Tuesday, I think I hit back or something. It really just depends. So my powerlifting split is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the filler days are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And so Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I kind of just train whatever feels the best. But so on Wednesday, I have to squat and bench. I wouldn't do chest on Tuesday because I know I need that for my bench session.
Yeah.
So obviously I would never do chest on a Tuesday. And then Thursday's weird. I have to bench on Friday, but I'll still maybe do a chest exercise on Thursday, 1 or 2 chest exercises, nothing too serious. I'll sometimes do that. But usually Thursdays are my shoulder days. And then on Saturday, it's kind of like, I don't want to say like full body, but like it's 2 exercises from each muscle group. And that's kind of my split right now. But I usually change it up every single week. I kind of just play it by ear.
So do you find that like, are you incorporating, obviously like your coach controls like whatever exercise you do like normally, but like, do you find that there's like a lot of like corrective exercises and exercises that are like designed to help like improve the lift? So like, for example, if you were doing like bench press, like maybe like strengthening your rear delts and doing like face pulls, a lot of people don't like necessarily think that like there's a lot of different exercises that are going to really help with your bench. But when you think of like your bench, you think of like your chest, your front delts, and your triceps.
Yeah.
But like your back tightness and like your upper back and your traps. So do you find that like do you do a lot of those like not necessarily I don't think corrective exercises is the right word, but like complementary exercises to like this is in the program for this reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you find yourself
Yeah, so actually it kind of changes with every power lifter. My coach is really good at spotting what you lack in each lift.
yeah.
So for my coach, he thinks that my back is kind of weak. So he incorporates a lot of back accessories for me.
Yeah.
And the biggest one is probably a single dumbbell row. And that you wouldn't think it helps a bench press, but it helps a lot. Like I've seen my bench improve as well as like, I'm rowing like 100, 105 pounds now compared to what I used to because my back's gotten stronger.
Yeah.
Also, a big one is a glute ham raise. That's in the program for squat and deadlift. I think it's more in the program for deadlift more than squat. But also another thing is banded abductors.
Okay.
Yeah, that's and obviously for your hip reflectors, whatever they're called. And low bar squatting compared to high bar squatting, like when you're low bar squatting, you have a lot more activation in your hips than anything else. So me doing banded abductors have really helped my squat in that way.
It's funny. It's funny because a lot of people think that like well, I shouldn't like I just classify everybody in the same group, but I feel like a lot of like men don't want to do glute exercises. Like, and I feel like it's one of the most important things. Like, if you're looking to kind of increase your strength and like your lifts, like being able to do like hip extension exercises, and like I know people that are like sitting down a lot, like they have issues with their lower back, they have issues with their like core, like their glute strength and everything. And it's like it's always I wouldn't say it's embarrassing, but I know like personally for me when I'm programming like rope pull throughs or like glute bridges or like barbell hip thrusts, it's always like an awkward,
Yeah.
You find like yourself in the same situation where it's like, if you're training like extension, like hip extension based movements, do you find that like it's a little bit awkward to do that or like the training, you know what I mean? Like if you were doing like duck walks or something, have you ever heard of duck walks?
Yeah. It's weird because when I was bodybuilding, I would think that a lot. I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, this is kind of like girly to say. But now that like when I do it, I know I'm doing it for a specific purpose. It's weird. I don't really think about it like that anymore. When I was bodybuilding, I was like, yeah, everyone's going to think I'm like a girl type shit. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But now that I'm doing it for a purpose, I really don't think like that anymore.
Yeah, it's like I always try to find like the corner in the gym to do my thrusts or something where it's like, I think I'll just skip that and do that at home.
Yeah.
End up like always skipping, and I feel like that's probably like I definitely need a lot more of that in my programming. Like my leg days are like when you think of leg days, you think of like squats, leg press, leg curls, things like that, where a lot of people like lack. I mean, obviously powerlifting would be different, but like for like a bodybuilding split, like a lot of my like flaws would come with like not including enough like glute exercises and not really like strengthening that. So I find I'm always like hesitant with programming it. And then like when I'm programming it for clients, I'm always like weird about it as well because I'm like, does he really want to be doing like barbell hip thrusts? It's like it's kind of an awkward exercise, especially if like you're uncomfortable in the gym. If you're a new lifter and you're going into the gym, you just want to sit yourself down on a machine and you don't want to be like doing like like weird. I wouldn't say it's not really a weird exercise, but doing exercises that make you feel even more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess with like training related, what do you feel is like the biggest? Obviously, you're still like new with it and young with it as well, but like, what do you feel is like the biggest mistake that you see a lot of like people that are looking to get into powerlifting, or if like let's say I was like looking to get into powerlifting myself and I was new to it, I guess like what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's looking to do that?
The biggest advice I would tell anybody is never, ever ego lift, ever.
Yeah.
And I think a big misconception with powerlifting is, like to get strong, all you gotta do is lift heavy. That is not the case at all. I probably do more reps than most bodybuilders. Like,
Yeah.
So the 5x3 that I do on Fridays, like that's calculated. Like I don't tell myself I'm going to go into the gym and do that weight, do this and that. Like everything's calculated.
It's like the percentage of like your 1 rep max. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they don't really they're like, I'm just going to go in there and deadlift. And it's like, let's say you went in there and deadlifted like 315. You're like, well, I have to increase the weight. And like people that aren't following like a 1 rep max, they're like, well, I did 315 yesterday, I'll try like 325.
Yeah.
But it's if you're following like a mathematical approach where it's like, we're going to do like 75% of your 1 rep max. A lot of people are like bumping it up way too much. And it's like, well, let's try 76 and a half. Let's try 70. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like if you're doing that more, you're going to be able to like do more linear progression versus just like starting off with 315 and then moving it and then never progressing because you end up going too heavy and then you get discouraged and then your form breaks down and then your form sucks.
Yeah. A lot of people that went to my high school actually go to the university I'm in, and they follow me on Instagram, stuff like that, and they'll DM me and be like, hey man, like how are you lifting this and that now? And they're like, I can't get my squat up, I can get my bench up. And I'm always like, okay, well, what are you doing? And they're like, well, I usually just do this and then I'll do this. And they'll be like, I work up to a heavy single and then I'll do like 2 back down sets. And I'm like, okay, well then don't do that and do like a 4x8 or a 5x10 or something like that, because that's really going to build strength. Like volume builds strength. Lifting heavy does not build strength. Literally, you lift heavy to feel the weight. That's all it is. Like you're not gaining anything from doing singles and doubles every time you go into workout. You're doing absolutely nothing for your body. If anything, you're hurting your body. And it feels like a lot of people that try and increase their numbers don't understand that.
Absolutely. Have you ever done that like thing where you literally just like you put like way too much, like for let's take the squat for example, you put like way too much weight on the bar, like let's say like 50 pounds more than you can actually squat, and then you just de-rack it and then like feel the weight and then rack it. Have you ever done that before?
I have not. No, I've never done that.
It can be benefit for people that are scared to like, because like it primes, it's like a wake up call for your nervous system, right? It's like
pick up the weight and feel it.
Yeah, just like get the weight on your back and feel it. So like let's say you're squatting let's say you're normally squatting like 315, right? Throw like 345 on there and then just get underneath the squat rack, de-rack it, do your walkout. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hold the bar like 5-10 seconds and then re-rack it. You know what I mean? And it basically like a couple people do that where it's like you're just priming your nervous system to like, all right, this is what I want. This is what I want to get up to. This is what that weight feels like.
Yeah.
And then eventually like racking and then going back and like doing your working sets. I've had that like I always thought that was interesting. I've never did it myself, but I've seen like some like I guess like good powerlifters do it, or I've seen like it's definitely a reputable thing that I've seen out there.
I actually saw that the other day. There's this girl powerlifter that goes to my gym, and I don't know what she had on there. It was like 285 or something like that, and that's what she did. She unracked it, walked it out, and then walked back. And I was confused at first. I was like, is she just too scared to squat? Like, should I go ask for a spot? But personally, I don't like asking girls if they need a spot. I think that discourages them a lot, so I don't do that. But I saw her walk out and go back, and I was like, nah, she's probably just doing exactly what you said. So I let her be.
That would be a good one for bench press.
Yeah.
For you, I feel a lot because like that was something I was struggling with where it's like once you get over 225, it's like it starts to like not be a numbers game anymore. It starts to be like
a mental. Yep.
You can just get someone behind you where it's like, all right, bro, I need a spot.
Yeah.
But like put 315 on there or something like very uncomfortable. And then just get used to like, I feel like I know for me, that's something that like I was working on with squats because I always like, I remember progressing on weight. It's like, holy shit, this feels heavy. Right. And if like you're thinking it feels heavy, then it's going to be heavy. Whereas like, if you go into the set where you're like, your mindset's like, this is fucking easy, I'm going to crush it. You know what I mean? You're more, I don't know. It's just like a mindset thing. I feel like that's a good thing. And I think that that's overlooked a lot with like just progressing up in weight. People think that like, you just need to be able to understand that you can do it and believe that you can do it. If there's any like if there's any hesitation with like pulling the bar off the floor, that's like where injury happens.
Mm-hmm.
And like especially at the bottom end of a squat where it's like you like get the bar on your back, you're going down for the first rep and you're thinking in your head, holy fuck, this is heavy.
Yeah.
And then you get to the bottom of the rep and you're already like in doubt, and then your legs like, you know what I mean, move where they shouldn't move, and then you end up fucking pulling something in your hamstring or something just because like you could have done the weight, but you just like didn't have that mindset, or like you didn't believe, you know what I mean, in like your form. And like once you nail the form, I think it's like being able to believe like you need to maintain that form and your form is good, and then really execute the lift. I think that's where a lot of people kind of, I mean, obviously I don't do any powerlifting, but just from like bodybuilding and understanding like progression and like for me, there's always been that hesitation.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want to move into cardio. I guess like how does that differ for you? Like are you currently doing any cardio? And I guess like for you, what's the purpose of doing cardio? Because like coming from a bodybuilding thing, it's like you're doing it for obviously health reasons, but you're also doing it because you want to like minimize fat gain while trying to like have the calories there in order to build muscle. Or dieting, obviously, it's a tool. But I guess as a power lifter, what kind of cardio are you doing, and like how does it? Why are you doing the cardio? I guess.
Yeah. So going back on my split, so ultimately, I'm only supposed to be training 4 days a week. Most powerlifters only train 4 or 5 days a week. Most powerlifters, there are some powerlifters that train 6, but that's because they don't do squat, bench, deadlift days. They only do 1 or 2 movements a day. So I'm training 6 days a week, but also, except on Mondays and Fridays, I do cardio every day. And that's for me because I have a goal this summer where I want to look low-key like my best that I've ever looked before. Like I want to feel the strongest and I want to look the best. So I actually started cutting weight like 7-ish weeks ago. And I'm down like 6-ish pounds. I'm losing like 0.8, 0.7 a week, which is kind of what I'm aiming for. But yeah, I would say 90% of powerlifters do not do cardio to where they're going to burn calories. They do cardio like on a bike to warm up for like 5 minutes, or they'll walk on a treadmill after the workout to cool down, but they don't do it to where they're going to burn calories.
Yeah, the way that what was going through my mind when I was kind of like, I guess, kind of developing this train of thought was like, for powerlifters, it's like you need to be able to like have the stamina. Whereas like bodybuilding, if you're doing like, I know personally when you're doing like 3 sets of 10 for deadlifts, it's like arguably harder to do 3 sets of 10 with deadlifts than it is to do like 5 sets of 3 with deadlifts in terms of like your cardiovascular wise. Because like, especially if you're progressing up in weight, like I know after like 3 sets of 10 of deadlifts or 3 sets of 10 of squats, I'd much rather do like 5 by 5.
Oh yeah.
You know, lower the reps, increase the sets. And it's like for cardio. And I guess like another thing I was getting at with that was like with being in like a class of powerlifting, like you probably have to stay within a certain weight.
Yeah.
For your class. So do you find that like cardio is a good tool for like, I guess, hitting on both things? Like do you find the cardio is a good tool to like train your cardiovascular ability to kind of do the lift, but also like keep you within that weight class?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Since I started incorporating just cardio into, my days I'm not doing SBD, I can tell a huge difference when I actually end up squatting and deadlifting, because usually, a 3x8 on squat, like you're like pretty toast by like the 4th or 5th rep. Like you're out of breath and you're like, I mean, I have to do it. Like I have 4 reps left. But doing cardio for so long, it definitely has helped those lifts. But about the weight class, I don't know. Like considering for my prep, for my first meet, I didn't really prep like that because the weight class I was in, I was kind of like in the middle. So there was no way of me gaining. I think it was like, there was no way I was going to lose 5 pounds or gain 5 pounds, like to get
time.
Yeah, with the amount of time. Yeah, because the meet that I wanted to do, it was kind of just a split decision thing. I just wanted to do it just to do it. And I just didn't really I just wanted to see how it was. I was doing it for the experience. I wasn't doing it to be, the best to go and whatnot.
Yeah, fun to get your feet wet and like get into it and
Yeah.
like kind of have some numbers where you're like, okay, this is what I did. Now I can improve on these.
Yeah.
Because if you don't really have any like guidelines, it's the same thing when I did my show. It's like I looked at myself and I was like, I'm actually doing like a post about this like probably this week, but like I was really surprised with like how much muscle like I didn't have.
Yeah.
Because like when you're doing like a show, you're like, holy fuck, like I look pretty juicy or whatever, and then you start dieting, and then like you get down and you're like, where did all the muscle go, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it gave me like an idea of like, okay, these are my weak points. Like my back looked good. I thought it looked good. Like I could use a little bit more work with my core, like my arms needed, like, so like being able to like, but like once you get that lean and like see yourself, you're like, okay, now I know like where the muscle kind of like went from, what I need to improve on. And I think that like where I'm trying to get at is like the powerlifting aspect. It's like you can be lifting those numbers in the gym, but to do it in a meet is a completely different situation.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I
Yeah.
have no problem hitting those numbers in the gym, but like nervous, it's like you could get nervous. You could
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Even though like 20 people in the crowd, you never know. You can get nervous as hell unracking that squat. Like you never know until you've tried it.
oh yeah, your legs start shaking and shit.
Yeah.
And like your own head, like, did I do it? And it's just like you start overthinking it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, it's good to be able to be like, okay, well, let's set some guidelines. Let's get my feet wet. Let's establish some numbers. And then like, I know that I hit these numbers. I'm confident I can do it. I did it in the meet. So like, let's do the meet. Then let's like try to improve on those numbers and let's try to bump it up. So I think like definitely like 100% for sure. Like it just gets your feet wet and establishes some numbers. And then it also like gives you some confidence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Know that like, okay, I'm going to do a meet and talking about it. But then when you do it, you're like, I accomplished that. I did it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a sense of like reward where it's like you're amped up to like improve, right? So
exactly.
So just one more question on training, then we'll kind of dive into some other like nutrition related and some other questions. So with the aspect of like the meet, how long would you say is like ideal for somebody who's new looking to get into a meet? Like how long would you consider that like prep process? I understand everybody's at like a different starting point, but I guess like for somebody who's similar to you that's looking into getting into it, like how many months would you kind of like recommend giving somebody to prepare for their first meet?
I would say probably, I don't know, because you're kind of always prepping. That's the thing. Like you're always getting stronger. But I would say, so like for me, for like prepping, it would be like tone down the bodybuilding, like strictly work on things like powerlifting wise that I struggle with.
Yeah.
But it would probably be like 8 to 9 weeks before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like not that much. Like it's like 2 months.
Really?
That's when I would probably stop doing bodybuilding. I think for the meet I was prepping for, it was like 5 weeks, but that's because I didn't really know my body yet. But definitely for the one that's coming up in the fall, I'll probably stop doing bodybuilding probably 7 or 8 weeks before, and just strictly focus on things that need to get done.
Would you? I mean, obviously, you didn't compete in the bodybuilding show, but like, would you just your opinion or your thoughts on like preparing for a bodybuilding show versus preparing for a powerlifting? Which one do you think would like be longer? Just like your general thoughts on it. Like, obviously, you didn't.
Bodybuilding,
100%. You think bodybuilding you'd have to prepare for?
100%, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was wondering. I've obviously never did powerlifting, but I was thinking to myself like, you see everybody prepare for powerlifting, and I'm always thinking like, well, that's a pretty like. I don't know if obviously the process wouldn't be the same, but I'm thinking to myself like, bodybuilding potentially be like harder to prepare for maybe because
bodybuilding is definitely harder to prepare for 100%.
Yeah. That's one thing. That's something I thought in my mind, but I didn't really like know. And I was thinking because I obviously don't have any experience doing powerlifting, so I don't really know, like which one would. So that's kind of why I was interested in kind of like getting your thoughts because you've both. Whereas me, it's like I've never really did a powerlifting program. Mm-hmm. So
now that I've done both sports, though, I will say that powerlifting overall is a lot harder to do.
On a in day out basis, yeah.
Yeah, like a day-to-day basis, I think it's harder to do. I think you have a lot more like flexibility with bodybuilding, but
Yeah.
for prep, bodybuilding is 100% hands down so much harder than a powerlifting prep for sure.
Yeah, I like the aspect of powerlifting that kind of gets to me is like, I wouldn't say you always have to continue to push yourself. You know what I mean, with powerlifting, because you have to hit those numbers. Like there's benchmarks, whereas bodybuilding, it's kind of like arbitrary, or it's kind of like up in the air. It's like not necessarily, like, obviously you need to have a progression or a program and to like improve you still need to do things in order to improve. But whereas bodybuilding, it's like, all right, like I'm going to hit arms today. You know what I mean? Bring arms. That's like, you're still being productive, but like you don't have to really have like, all right, I calculated 75% of my 1 rep max, and I need to hit this by Wednesday, and then, you know what I mean, I need to do this to fix my posture. I wouldn't say, I don't want to sound like form isn't important, but I feel with bodybuilding, it's a different type of form.
Yeah.
Than it is with power form. Like you're benching, it should be benching. If you're squatting, like there is a specific form. But I feel with powerlifting, it's like there's things that you have to make sure you're doing. If not, you'll like get disqualified, or like your lift won't count, and like. Whereas bodybuilding, it's like if you're doing it a certain way, you don't feel it, you just change it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like, form is 100% important. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that like I don't have to bench.
There are different forms you can do to trigger different muscles for bodybuilding. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the nutrition side of things, I just kind of want to dive into that a little bit. So with the nutrition, do you find that what does your general nutrition look like? Do you find yourself like I think a lot of people, kind of what I'm getting at with this is like a lot of people push calories, and like with powerlifting, they think that they need to, like, going back to what you said with the weight class, like like in order to be able to lift heavier, you need to be heavier. But there's also that fine line. Like, what are your thoughts on like eating for powerlifting? And like, do you include like, are you always including clean foods like chicken and rice, like a traditional kind of meal, or do you have like times where maybe your coach is like, no, we need to get a couple hamburgers in, we need to get a couple things in order to kind of, like, I guess, how do you balance the nutrition side of things with powerlifting?
Yeah. About powerlifting, you burn a shit ton of calories. Like on an SBD day, I don't really know how much I burn, but it's probably like well over 600.
Yeah.
So from the powerlifters I know and that I've talked to, they eat like shit. Like they basically eat whatever they want, and they don't really gain weight because we burn so much calories. I used to do the same thing when I first started powerlifting. I kind of just ate whatever the hell I wanted. But it wasn't like I would eat cheeseburgers every day. Like it would be like healthy meat and stuff like that. I would kind of like keep the macros in my head. Like, okay, this is probably around like 40, 50 grams. I'll eat another meal in 3 hours, and kind of just keep that lodged in my head. But now that I'm cutting for the summer, I've been tracking my macros, and so right now I'm around like 200 to 250-ish grams of carbs per day, and like around like 170 to 200 grams of protein per day, and like 50-ish to 60 grams of fat. And I will say that me eating like this, and I'm also in a deficit, I have felt a lot better eating like this than how I used to a couple months ago, for sure.
So I guess like are you prioritizing more carbs in your diet versus protein?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So where are your calories like currently sitting at now? Like where, like about like approximately?
Right now it's only 2,200.
2,200.
Yeah.
And where, I guess, like when you're.
And I wasn't tracking. It was probably around like 32, honestly. 32 or 34, something like that. And the thing is, I didn't really gain weight, and I didn't lose weight. It was really stable because I was so strict on, you know, what I was doing, like squat, bench, deadlift, like with volume and stuff. Like everything was so strict. So I guess my body just kind of fell used to it, and with how I ate and how I trained, so I never really gained or lost weight.
Did you find that you're like a little bit better of a power lifter when you're eating more calories, or do you find that like maybe being on a reduced calorie? Because I feel like a lot of people are like trying to force down food and like getting bloated and then like shitty going to the gym, right? Like, do you find that like you were a little bit of a better power lifter, let's say, like in more of a surplus or like at maintenance than you were like in a deficit, do you feel?
Yeah, it's weird because when I was thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna cut, like, I look like shit. Like, I kind of want to see my abs again and stuff like that. And I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, but me being in a deficit, I'm afraid, like, I'm not gonna hit the lifts I need to. Honestly, man, I have felt more strong than I've ever felt in my life, and I'm in a deficit. So as long as you're getting a gram of protein per body weight with powerlifting, like, I think you'll be okay, if I'm being honest. I don't feel any, like, injuries happening soon. Like, when I'm doing the weight, it feels fine. Like, I feel fantastic. And I was scared about it at first. I was scared, like, when I got my new block, I was like, damn, like, I hope I can hit that shit in a deficit. And I mean, it's been easy. So
Absolutely.
compared to a surplus, I'm not sure, because
I feel like my general like thoughts was like everybody that's powerlifting is constantly in a surplus, and then like
yeah,
that's just my bias, because like I'm not really like aware of like what actual like powerlifters do. So for me, it's like thinking like they're just trying to like get as many calories in because like they want to be able to like improve their lifts and like recover, and like that's kind of like my general bias. Just the powerlifting was thinking like, well, you got to try to slam calories, and
yeah,
I don't know if it really relates to a bulk, like a bodybuilding bulk,
yeah.
because in a bodybuilding bulk, I feel like my idea was people take bodybuilding bulks too far.
Oh,
Like
yeah. They
that's just
take
my.
way too far.
I feel like I relate that to powerlifting, where it's like you see people with beer bellies like bench like 450, like 400. You know what I mean? It's like, but they, in order for them to bench that, they need that, and they're not like, they don't got physique goals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've got powerlifting goals.
Yeah. Now, having said that, there's no way I could bench, like, if I'm 165 pounds, me benching 400 pounds is probably pretty unlikely. I'm gonna have to gain some weight.
Yeah.
But I haven't reached that point yet, and probably not anytime soon, to where I'm gonna need to gain like 10 pounds to get to the next step.
Yeah.
I'm kind of just waiting for that next step to be like, okay, well, now, I'm on a flat. I'm not improving
You
at all.
like where you are, and now you have to like, in order to improve those lifts, you're like, well, 10 pounds would be like the cost benefit of like putting on that 10 pounds would be way more.
Exactly.
Versus just like telling yourself you need to put 10 pounds on. Like, I feel like that's the mistake that a lot of people make just in general, is like, I'm going to put 10 pounds on just for the sake of putting 10 pounds on. But like, is that 10 pounds really going to like be better for you? Right. Like, are you going to be able to like train hard? Going to be able to like push yourself harder? Are you going to be able to like actually like absorb those calories and use them versus just like storing them?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So.
My coach has talked to me about my weight, and he was like, I think you would strive the best at like anywhere from like 190 to 200 pounds. But there's no point for me to do that, because I'm still like this. Like, I'm still
going up. Yeah.
I'm still going up in weight and squat and deadlift and everything. So there's no point for me to gain weight. So say I did jump up to 190, 200 pounds, the people in that weight class would shit on me. Like, I would get shit on, because they've been that weight for probably a while. They're used to those lifts.
Per portion of body weight, right? Like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, you're killing it where you're at right now. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing good. Point. Yeah. I like try to compete with people that are doing better, I guess, in like a higher weight class, right?
Yeah. And he understands that. So that's like in the near future. That's probably like 4 or 5 years down the line.
Rush it, right? Like, I think that's like you don't want to rush it, and then like you said with injury as well. Like, the more you're putting on weight, the more chance you have for injury, because you know what I mean. So I think that like taking it slow is definitely the right approach. Sticking within your like weight class, as long as like you're seeing the numbers going up, like you mentioned, like you're comfortable with you're not really pushing calories, but you are seeing some progression. And I think that's like the name of the game. It's like, as long as you're still seeing progression, don't make any changes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, everything that you're doing, like, is your coach is obviously doing everything right. So it's like, for you, it's like, as long as you're seeing progression and you're feeling good and your performance is there, it's like, why change it, right? So
exactly.
Absolutely. So with supplements, I know this is kind of like a generic question. Everybody always mentions it, but for you, what kind of supplements do you find like are like an absolute must for you, like on a daily basis?
So personally, the only 3 supplements I take, or I guess 4, kinda, this is kind of like on a day-to-day basis, but I take, or I usually have anywhere between 2 to 4 scoops of whey every single day, 5 grams of creatine, and I take a multivitamin. And then, so I have these uh, meloxicam pills, but it's for me for my elbow. So I went through an elbow injury for a while, and I went to the doctor, and he was basically like, "You're fine, but we'll prescribe you." It's basically like very, very, very strong ibuprofen, but it doesn't make you drowsy or anything. I haven't used it probably in like a week, but it's there if I need it. If I wake up and my elbow feels like shit, then I'll pop one and it'll be fine.
Is it like a joint thing that you're experiencing?
Yeah, it's a joint thing. Yeah.
Did you ever try like fish oil consistently?
Yeah. It. I don't know. The thing is, I know why it's happening. Because the old gym I used to go to was basically all powerlifters, and this guy named Ron, he competes at Raw Nationals every single year. And he was telling me, because I asked him, I was like, "Yo, man, like, did your elbows ever feel like shit, like when you first started, powerlifting and benching 3-4 times a week?" He's like, "Oh yeah, everyone goes." I'm like, "Okay, well, when's it gonna stop?" He was like, "It probably took me about 8 or 9 months for it to finally go away." And I'm like, "Oh, why is that?" He's like, "Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but I used to bench like once a week, once every 2 weeks, and then I started benching 3-4 times a week. So my body's not used to it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, that's me." So it's probably gonna take another like 4 or 5 months of me benching 3-4 times a week for it to finally go away. But the doctor said it's nothing serious at all.
Yeah. Have you ever, obviously you might have probably considered, but have you ever considered like elbow wraps or like wrist wraps or
Yeah,
anything to?
yeah, I have considered like an elbow sleeve before. It doesn't help.
No, not at all.
I use wrist wraps, but that it doesn't help my elbow
No, no.
either.
Yeah, like you said, I think it totally would be like kind of like increasing the frequency. You're probably just getting used to like
Yeah,
doing joints are probably like trying to like get stronger, right? At being able to do that. So
yeah.
I could see that for sure. So with the lifestyle thing, I just have a couple questions about the lifestyle related questions. So with the con shop, I guess like what I understand that you're kind of like affiliated with them. I guess like how did that kind of start? And like that's a clothing brand, is it?
Yeah, yeah, it's a clothing brand. Yeah. So my best friend from high school, or one of my best friends from high school, his roommate started a clothing brand, the Con Shop, and he gave me a shirt, um, and I wore it. I took a picture in it, and I had like 3 or 4 people DM me, and they're like, "Yo, that shirt's dope. Like, where'd you get it?" And I said the Con Shop. And I told the owner of the con shop about it. He was like, "Oh, like shit, I guess like," because he started this brand like as a streetwear brand, not really like a gym brand at all.
Yeah.
Kind of like a streetwear guy. He's from Memphis. Um, so he was like, "Yeah, man, like start wearing that in the gym, and like maybe you can promote that other side of bringing streetwear into the gym." And so that's kind of how I got affiliated with him. He gave me a discount code, and I like to show off his stuff because I support him. He supports me, and that's kind of where we're at right now. Um, he, I don't know. He's weird right now. It's kind of a weird season for clothes to drop, but once summer comes around, I'm hoping he drops a lot more shorts and shirts and stuff like that I can rock in the gym.
Have you ever thought about maybe obviously he's going the direction that he wants, but has he kind of like seen you wear it and then get some like people that are interested and maybe he's going to like do an expansion to kind of like include like a gym? That's something that like you're
Yeah. So
talking to.
so he's actually talking about this. If I get a following that's a lot in the future, he wants me to stick with him, and he wants to like have my brand, I guess, with the con shop, like for my merch, like in the far, far future if that were to ever happen. And he would be like, yeah, like I'll give you like ideas for designs, see if you like it or whatnot for merch, and then we can sell it on the Con Shop website and we can both profit off of it. And I think that's pretty dope, but I mean, as of right now, that's not gonna happen because I don't have nearly enough following to, provide for merch.
And it's funny because it's like highly competitive as well, right? Like that's the thing. Like everything that you're doing with like clothing, it's like if you're doing like streetwear, it's like a totally different animal to like. Yes, the shirt can look good. Like I've seen some people wear some pretty funny things to the gym where it's like that's not really gym. You know what I mean? It's like, but like people can wear what they want, but it's like there's like the specific brands, the specific looks, and it's like it's constantly changing. So it's like it's so hard to keep up. Like it's like, is it leggings that are in? Is it shorts that are in? Is it like what actually like interested in wearing? And I think that's like it's definitely something like, and people are spending like a lot of money to like invest in these products. So it's like definitely like a difficult field. I think fitness is probably one of the harder things because you can just make general like lifestyle clothes where it's like you're wearing a suit and tie and you're going to work and you're wearing like a dress up shirt, wearing like like a button up shirt. Like those are pretty generic things. People are going to buy them based on what they need and how they look or whatever. But like fitness is kind of more of like people are picky. You know what I mean? People want, and I feel like people like really attach well to brands.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It's bold to wear like streetwear clothes in the gym, because it's not normal for people to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I'm not really like a guy that wears like gym clothes into the gym. Like I think it's normal to wear gym clothes into the gym. I just don't do it. I've never really been that type of guy to do that. I don't know why. I just don't do it. And I don't know, the Con Shop really brought me to bring the streetwear into the gym. But I think a lot of people are hesitant on it because they're like, that's different type shit.
Yeah.
But if I show them that it's not weird, you can do whatever the hell you want, then that's, I don't know, that's kind of where we're getting at. Like you can rock it however you want.
Yeah, you're gonna like target it towards people like that don't want that generic gym look, that want to feel like going in like some streetwear into the gym where it's like it's okay to wear whatever you want. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you don't have to wear Gymshark or you don't have to wear like whatever other brands you want to wear. It's like you can. Yeah, I 100% agree. I know everybody in like Nike and Adidas, and it's like that go to the gym, they're wearing like band T-shirts and like just like T-shirts in their closet that they don't want to, you know what I mean? They don't want to use for anything else. It's like, but I think that I'm completely agree with that as well. I'm not like really, I can't really say I'm a big brand guy. Like I do like obviously Nike and I like a couple other good like Adidas. I find that, but like generally like whatever fits the best. Like it doesn't have to have like a certain logo on it or it doesn't like I'm a pretty plain guy. So yeah, that's just kind of my generic thing with just like fitness lifestyle and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So with the routine aspect of things, this is the last question I want to talk about the lifestyle, and then we'll move into social media. Just touch on that a little bit, and then just kind of a couple closing questions. So it won't be that much longer. But with the lifestyle thing, with the routine, I feel like this is very important. So I guess like is routine something like that's extremely important in your life, where it's like in order for one thing to be going, another thing has to be going. So like if you're like planning your day, or I don't know how you plan your day exactly, but like do you need to go to the gym at a certain time? Do you need to have like your meals done, or like do you have certain days where it's like if something falls out of the sink, it comes down to routine. So I guess like what's something like is routine important for you? And I guess like what does your current routine look like?
Oh yeah, no, routine is extreme. I basically have the same routine every single day for every single week, or I have the same routine for every single day of the week, every single week.
Yeah.
And if I know something comes up, I kind of plan ahead of that 3 days before so I can revolve around that.
Yeah.
So basically, my routine right now is wake up around like 7-ish, 7:15, eat breakfast, knock out school for the day, and then I'll go to the gym because all my classes are online right now. So I knock out all my schoolwork, I go to the gym, and then I usually come home, get all my meals in, and then I typically work on schoolwork for the rest of the week to get ahead, so I'm not stressed. And yeah, that's about my routine every single day. And then the remaining time I have in the day, I don't know. That's kind of like my free time. I kind of just do whatever I want to do. I may go downstairs, watch a movie with my roommates, or I may play video games. It's kind of just whatever I'm feeling that day. Or I may, if it's a nice night, I'll go on a walk, something like that.
Absolutely. So I guess I want to tie that question into the social media aspect of it. So if you're looking to like grow your following and you're looking to make a presence and you're looking to become like, I guess like an authoritative figure or somebody who like they go to you for powerlifting, or they go to you for clothing, or they go to you for something to do with like fitness or just that in general. I guess like I understand that you're on YouTube. I understand that you're on Instagram, and you're building your following through there. But I guess like how do you, is that something that's important to you? And I guess if it's important to you, then like how do you allocate that time to make sure that you're putting out content on Instagram, that you're doing your YouTube videos? I guess like how do you balance that with school to try to like get good content out to people
Yeah.
who might need it?
Yeah, it wasn't really important to me at first. I kind of just, because I started my Instagram I think it was last summer. It may have been 2 summers. Yeah, it was 2 summers ago. Me and my buddy James, I'm actually going to be posting a YouTube video with him when he comes into town in a couple days. We'll probably shoot a YouTube video. But we trained at this powerlifting gym. It was called NBS in Memphis, and we would make these like video skits, like montages and stuff. That's kind of how I got into it, but I really did it for me. And then once I got into more just of like posting and shit like that, I didn't really realize who I was targeting. People would DM me and be like, yo, like I've seen you grow, I've seen you do this, that, like you really inspired me to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know doing this. Like I thought I was just doing this for myself. So it's important to me now because I genuinely want to help people. I think fitness is something for everybody. I think everybody should do it. It's great on every part of your body, mentally, physically. Yeah, I think it helps you get through the day and weeks. But how I balance that through school, I don't know. I kind of like, as I said, I kind of plan my days and they're all the same. So last semester was like I struggled last semester. I took a lot of hours and I was working 5 days a week. So it was really hard. I actually didn't do very good in school last semester. So this semester I kind of took a break from YouTube. I'm probably going to start posting videos come closer to the summer. But right now I kind of I've really been focusing on school more than anything. So, and Instagram is a lot easier to focus on than YouTube, because YouTube, I mean, you want to put your best effort into it.
Absolutely.
And editing videos, chopping it, doing all this, it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would take me 2 or 3 hours to just edit the video, and then I would have to make a thumbnail, do all this and that. Like, it would be like a day type thing. I would have to set like at least a morning aside just to get it ready.
Yeah.
For my weekly videos. But yeah, to prioritize it, you just got to make time for it. If it's something you actually really love, then you're going to make time for it. That's just the way I look at it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like I'm trying to balance like everything. I'm trying to balance, like I got the podcast on the go, I've got Instagram, I've got YouTube. I'm just trying to like balance the content. So for me, it's like making sure like I'm preparing. I find that's the biggest thing that's really helped me is like, obviously I want to do it, so it's important to me that I do it. For like you mentioned, all the reasons, like connecting with people, meeting new people, getting you on the podcast, like new people on the podcast. I feel like I love learning from other people. I love like sharing experiences and like connecting with others, because there's always giving. And I feel like a lot of people, you see it in their profile, but then you don't really get a true understanding of like how that person, like I would have never knew that you came from drugs or you came from whatever, you know what I mean, if I didn't get you on. So like now I've got like an emotional connection with you, where it's like when I'm seeing you're posting your content, I have an understanding of like where you're going, what your goals are, who you actually are, versus like, okay, he's just Asher posting a gym picture on Instagram, like a cool little tagline, right? So for me, that's the reason why it's important, is that I'm able to try to like help people, give value out in there. But yeah, like balancing like everything, like the podcast, like Instagram, YouTube, and there's just not enough time in the day, and you have to like figure out like where the priorities are. Like I was spending way too much time on YouTube. I was putting like 3 videos out a week.
Yeah.
And then like that wasn't really benefiting me in the way that I wanted it to. So lately I've been shifting more of my focus towards like the podcast and Instagram. So like that comes first. And if I get like 1 video out on YouTube, that's good. Like I want to hit that minimum where it's like minimum 1 video a week on YouTube, minimum like a podcast a month.
Yeah.
Like obviously people come and go, like you have to find people that are interested in the podcast. You have to like, you can't just get people on the podcast to get them on. Like I have to generally be like I don't just reach out to people and like, hey, let's come on my podcast. Like I'm generally interested in the people that I bring on, right? So being able to like reach out to people and find people, it's like once a month maybe. It's been more recently, but just having that minimum. So for you, is that something that like, do you struggle with that as well, or like is it something that you try to like prioritize when you have the time? Or
that's last semester with YouTube, that's what I was saying. It was like I always posted on Thursdays. I would have 1 video a week, and it was kind of like my it was like my training in a week, and that was my Thursday. Like I would always post that. But yeah, it was it's hard, but like I always wanted to reach that because I love to do it. But when I started to see it kind of like cripple my life, like school, my grades were falling and stuff like that, that's kind of realized I needed to tone it down. Because even though I think I love it, it's very important, there are always things that are going to be just as important, if not more.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to prioritize what's more important to you at the moment in time. And school is always going to be the most important thing to me right now. So
yeah, absolutely. So like finding that balance where it's like when school slows down, then like YouTube picks up, but like, not like one just take dominance because it's I understand completely.
Yeah.
So like, so it's a couple closing questions here.
Yeah.
Motivating or motivation, because I feel like it's a very important thing on like mindset. So I guess like a closing motivation question would be kind of like, everybody experiences like motivational issues and just like not wanting to go to the gym, like you mentioned on Friday, like when you have those tough sessions and like you don't want to go there and like it's very taxing on you. But I guess just in general, when you're not really feeling like in a great space, or maybe you're like thinking of like negative thoughts or whatever, I guess like at the end of the day, what really motivates you to do what you do and like continue to want to put the work on in the days where maybe you don't feel like getting up in the morning?
Yeah. I don't know. The thing that really motivates me is that like I think I said this in one of my posts earlier last week, is like I know the journey I'm taking right now, I'm gonna look back and be like, oh shit, like that's why I got to this point, is because I did that this day, or I did that this week. And I know that if I put that in my head in the future, I'm like, that's what I'm going to think. I'm glad I came this Friday and hit this shit.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to reward myself for it. Like, that's kind of what really gets me out of bed and gets me going, because I know my body's going to appreciate it once in the future. And I mean, yeah, that's basically it.
Absolutely. I think like being like present in the moment too is extremely important, because I feel like a lot of people get like sidetracked into like, well, this is what I want to achieve in powerlifting, but then they get so focused on that like end goal where it's like you do something shitty that day, you eat McDonald's or something, and it's not like helping you towards your goal.
Yeah.
But you get demotivated because like it's not the right direction. So I think that like being present in the moment and like controlling like what you can do that day.
Yeah.
I got the work, like I did everything in my ability to do what I needed to do. Like I think like if you're thinking about the week, I used to think about the week and used to think about the month, but like now I'm more focused on like the day and like breaking it down and saying like, what can I do today that's going to bring me closer to tomorrow? And like then am I thinking like tomorrow I don't want to wake up and know I skipped a workout, because then that's going to like, so just being able to be present and like I need to do this because I'm not doing it for like, I'm doing it because I want to get closer to my goal, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, Kobe Bryant was a really big speaker for me. He was actually like a big He was a really big influence for me, and he always said that if you fall in love with the destination, you've already lost. But if you fall in love with the journey, you're gonna surpass the destination by 1,000,000 miles because there is no destination. You're gonna surpass it.
I agree.
Yeah, and I guess that's what really pushed me too, because I always think about that. I don't really think about, oh, once I squat 405 pounds, I'm done. Like, I don't think about that. Like, I think about me squatting right now, that this is gonna pass me. This is gonna surpass all of my goals in my head in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that like that's the number one thing. I mean, other than just like not feeling great about yourself just in general, why people like skip the gym. But there's countless times where I don't want to go to the gym, and it's just like you always end up regretting it. And it's always like a sense of regret. And then like you end up going to the gym, ends up being like one of your best training sessions. Cause like for some reason, I don't know why it works out that way, but like once you get on a piece, I always like make myself like go to the gym. Like I'm like, you know what? If I don't feel like going to the gym, I'm just gonna go to the gym and do some cardio.
Yeah.
Because find that like if you're focused on like that lift, like if you're doing like a push workout or a pull workout, you're so focused on like the amount of energy you have to exert in order to like do good that session, right? But like I find that like if I get into the space of like, okay, I don't want to work out today, let's just go to the gym and do some cardio and see how I feel.
Yeah.
And it's like you end up going and doing some cardio, you spend like 10 minutes on the elliptical or the treadmill or whatever, and then you get the blood flowing, and next thing you know, like the pre-workout hits, and then you're like, now I'm ready to actually crush this workout. You went from like not wanting to work out at all to convincing yourself to go in to do some cardio, feeling great about the cardio, getting like your endorphins going and like everything going, the blood flow. And then you're like in the environment, the pre-workout hits, and then you get the workout in, and then it's just another day. You know what I mean? Like, I find that that's really helped. It's just like, it's like people always say, like, when you call off work, it's like, you're sick, you like, don't come to work. And people are always like, well, why don't you just go to work and see how you feel? You know what I mean? And have to go home. That's kind of how I treat it with the gym. It's like, I don't feel the best today. I'm still going to go to the gym and see how I feel, because I guarantee you when I do that, it's probably like 85% of the time I'm doing the workout. So
yeah, no, that's a great way to think about it for sure.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much going to wrap up the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on. Do you have any last words at all that you'd like to kind of send off to the viewers of who's checking out the video? Just any last tips or anything any takeaways or anything that you're looking to improve on or that you're doing in the future?
Well, thanks for having me on, Mark. This was a lot of fun. I've never been on a podcast with somebody else besides James. But yeah, if y'all ever want any tips on powerlifting, I guess just DM me. I can do my best. I don't coach anybody right now with school and everything. That's also something I want to do in the future. But if y'all have any just general tips, I'm there for you. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for having me on, Mark. It's a lot of fun.
And how I always end every podcast is don't forget to be inspiring, stay motivated, and continue to push your limits.